Natasha and Her Illegitimate Child in a Muslim Society. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. Book 1. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Before we dive into the tapestry of the story, I would like to inform the reader this novel is narrated in 2 books. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on the real life of a Muslim family. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Therefore, any resemblance to real people, living or dead, events or locales is merely coincidental. Chapter 39. I Am Your Daughter. The dangerous Muslim terrorist, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din, had already made a vow among the Muslim Sudanese and his Muhajirin circles that he would never allow such marriage of 2 Muslim apostates to happen as long as he is living. For that reason, he became extremely outraged when those 2 apostates defied his authority and got married and escaped his deadly attack. Moreover, he became exceedingly angry when he had been detained and accused as a terrorist by the Calgary police. He was grounded in Canada for 1 full year. For 12 months he was not able to visit his 3 overseas wives, and that is too much for the notorious womanizer. His vengeful spirit was intensified, and his anger boiled in his chest like lava in the volcano and led him to determine to inflict unforgettable punishment on the accursed Sudanese priest Wahid and the Muslim apostate girl Natasha as soon as he has been exonerated from the terrorist attack. His evil mind began to plan another plot against them. A few months prior to the final day of the terrorist trial, Natasha Mohammed Ahmed delivered a lovely baby girl. She named her new daughter Nadia in memory of her deceased grandmother, Nadia Alexandrov. She followed the good custom of her grandfather, who named her after her late mother, Natasha Shams al-Din. By then a year had passed since the junior Natasha and her husband Wahid had been united in a holy matrimonial union. It was supposed to be one of the best years of her life, but the brutal murder of her grandfather and those innocent invited guests on her wedding day continued to torment her mind and torture her conscience. The lovely bride and her handsome groom were supposed to fly to the Hawaii Islands for their honeymoon. It was her loving grandfather who used his savings and spent generously on their wedding and honeymoon. But after the cruel death of Dr. Sammy Shams al-Din, the wedded couple canceled their honeymoon trip and mourned for many days. Natasha expected the Calgary Criminal Court would punish her biological father for planning and executing such a cowardly terrorist attack that killed her loving grandpa and hundreds of innocent people. But when was acquitted from the charges, while every police officer in Calgary believed he is the mastermind of that terrorist attack, her conscience troubled her so much. She became more restless, and her anger knew no limits. She wished that she could murder him with her own hands as revenge for the evils he did to the members of her family. She understood from his past life in Sudan and criminal records in Canada that he would never cease to trouble her and her husband. She also expected that eventually he would plot another evil terrorist attack which might deprive her of her husband. Natasha is mad with the Canadian judicial system, which allowed such a dangerous terrorist to live and move freely in society. Instead, he was supposed to be designated as a dangerous habitual offender and indefinitely kept under lock and key. By setting him free, he would continue to pose a constant threat to her and her family. Natasha Mohammed Ahmed has innocently thought that by letting Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din know that she is his real daughter, he might stop haunting her and her husband. She decided to approach him without the knowledge of her husband and inform him about the blood relationship she had with him. She also thought because he is a religious man and a big spiritual leader, her biological father might fear his god Allah and refrain from killing his own daughter and her lawful husband. She expected that if she approached him in his residence, he might refuse to meet her and either ask his bodyguards to kick her out or call the cops on her. Additionally, he might tell the police she has come to murder him in his house as revenge for her grandfather. She concluded that the best place to meet him is near the biggest mosque in the city of Calgary. She decided to meet him after the Friday public prayer was over. She also expected that he might deny his relationship when she revealed who she was to him in front of his followers. She took with her that 20-year-old newspaper's article, which included full details about his criminal record in Sudan and his sexual involvement with her late mother. Still, she thought that he might deny his relationship with an apostate girl like her. Even if he would deny it, she thought she might create some doubts in his heart and in the minds of those around him. Natasha Mohammed Ahmed put one of her loveliest dresses and headed to the mosque on a Friday afternoon. Her husband had already left for his Bible college. She took her newborn baby daughter Nadia Wahid with her. When she arrived in front of the mosque, the public prayer had just ended, and the worshippers began to come out of the biggest mosque in the city. She did not wait for long before she saw her father coming out of the mosque surrounded by some of his Muhajirin followers. She is astounded when she sees how those followers show their love and devotion to him. They are almost worshipping him. Some of them are kissing his hands and feet, while some are bowing before him and allowing him to lay his holy hands on their heads and bless them. Some are acting as his bodyguards, pushing the crowd aside and opening the way for him to walk without being touched or bothered by the devotees. Natasha quickly overcame her shock and began to hurry up behind him. She understood that if she would not catch up with him in time, he would enter his beautiful, expensive, brand-new Mercedes car and drive away. When she reached close to him, she called out his name. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din, shouted Natasha in her lovely and sweet feminine voice. The wicked sheikh has that masculine sixth sense which could distinguish the feminine voice among thousands of male voices. He immediately stopped and turned to the direction from where his name has been called by the sweet feminine voice of a young woman. When he saw Natasha, he recognized her at once. The first thought that arose in his mind is that she has come to harm him for killing her grandfather. His next response is to run to his car and hide from her. But he is worried that he might be counted by his worshippers as a coward spiritual leader who has been chased away by a young woman. Even so, he turned his face to the other direction and ignored her. He then forced his way and hurried to his car. Before he could enter his car and drive away, Natasha shouted again, "I want to reveal to you the blood relationship that has tied me with you. I don't think I have anything to do with you." "Yes, you have. I am your real daughter." Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din looked carefully at Natasha and surveyed her face to see whether she was serious about what she was saying or just trying to bother him. When he saw that she is serious and her face is full of determination, he looked at his followers to see whether they have understood what the young woman is claiming to be to him. He saw his followers were more shocked than him. "What has made you think that you are my daughter? As far as my knowledge is concerned, you are a rebellious young woman and apostate from Islam. Therefore, I can't be your spiritual father even in the Islamic faith. You are not my father in the Islamic faith. You are my real biological father, and I have with me in my hand proof of that." When Natasha spoke those words, she handed over a copy of the newspaper to him. Sheikh Yasser reluctantly received the newspaper from her hand. He then angrily looked at the newspaper and then looked back at Natasha. Until then, he had not believed a single word of what she had said to him. But for his religious integrity and the people around him, he decided to get rid of Natasha by giving her a false promise. "Okay, I will look at this newspaper you have given me when I reach my residence. Do you have anything more to tell me?" "No, I don't have. But I want to know what you think after reading this 20-year-old newspaper article. Do you have a contact number so that my personal secretary can reach you?" Natasha jotted down in a piece of paper her cell phone number and handed it over to him, This is my personal cell phone number. But please don't call me unless you are fully convinced that I am your true daughter. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din hated the way Natasha has spoken her words and challenged him with strong confidence in what she is claiming. He touched his long beard and looked seriously at her before he turned his back and walked to his car. As soon as his car began to race across the busy streets of downtown Calgary, he opened the newspaper that Natasha had handed it over to him. He saw there is a full 2 pages newspaper's article about his past criminal record in Sudan. He also saw a big handwritten letter. He immediately began to read the letter that had been written by Natasha and addressed to him. In her letter, Natasha explained to him how she is the same child that was born out of his adulterous relation with her late mother Natasha Sami Shams al-Din. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din has been shocked by the undeniable pieces of evidence that proved without a shadow of a doubt that the accursed apostate Natasha is the daughter of the young Sudanese girl whom he deceived with the promise of marriage and twice impregnated her. He has no idea how that girl got rid of the first illegitimate child of her first pregnancy. But today he came to know the offspring of the second pregnancy is the young woman who confronted him in front of all his followers and claimed to be his daughter. If the sheikh came to know that Satan the devil is his progeny, he won't be so shocked and extremely outraged as when he learned that the apostate Sudanese girl Natasha is his biological daughter. Why only me, among the over 1.5 billion Muslims in the world, must be the father of the accursed Sudanese apostate girl? The sheikh asked himself while great indignation possessing his mind and heart like an evil spirit. Therefore, he knew and understood that that unpleasant discovery marked the beginning of his downfall. It is the darkest day of his life. How is he going to face his followers with such an ugly scandal? He always claimed to be innocent of the charges of kidnapping, raping, and imprisoning the 14-year-old Brittany Johnson, and his devotees and Muslim listeners agreed. But now after that satanic creature and filthy apostate who is hated by each and every Muslim in Calgary came up with her undeniable evidence and claimed to be his bint haram or his illegitimate daughter, his name and integrity would go in smoke. In her letter, Natasha did not only claim to be his daughter, but threatened to take him to court if he denied the relationship and requested a DNA test to confirm her claim. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din was scared that if he denied his relationship with Natasha, she might expose him publicly and scandalizes his religious reputation and causes him to lose his respect and position as the leader of the Muhajirin group. How could he face his followers if it proved that his daughter is none other than the Sudanese Muslim young woman who openly apostatized from Islam and embraced the religion of the accursed infidels? She is hated by every Sudanese Muslim in Calgary. She is abhorred not only for her abominable conversion, but for her marriage with that apostatized Sudanese priest. The entire Sudanese community knew that the same accursed priest impregnated her before she married him. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din found himself being faced with a difficult dilemma. If he denied the relationship, Natasha would take him to court and prove his fatherhood to her through a DNA test. He would not be able to refuse to follow the court order to conduct a paternity DNA test. On the other hand, if he admitted the relation, then he would be publicly disgraced among the Muslim Sudanese community and lose his respect among his followers in the Muhajirin group. Some of his followers had already heard her words when she came and confronted him in front of the mosque and claimed to be his real daughter. While he is pondering how to escape from the horns of that dilemma, suddenly his terrorist mind came up with another wicked plan. He immediately picked up his cell phone and dialed Natasha's cell phone number. When Natasha responded to his call, he requested her to come and meet him in his residence. Natasha asked him what time he wanted her to come. He told her any time she wanted to come she would be welcomed. Natasha heard his voice on the phone as if he were saying those words while he was weeping. As soon as he hung up the phone, his car reached his residence. The sad tone of his voice made Natasha feel a bit guilty. She felt she might have misunderstood him. She might have moved his heart and made him feel terribly guilty of what he had done to her family. For the first time since she came to know he is her father, Natasha began to entertain the possibility of forgiving him if he is prepared to apologize for the harm he did to her family. If she succeeded in changing his heart, she expected that she would be able to stop him from trying to harm her and her family. So, as soon as she received his call, Natasha decided to go and meet him in his residence. She had already obtained his address from one of the newspapers during the trial. Moreover, she expected every Muslim cabby would know the house of such a famous religious leader of the Muhajirin group. Natasha kept her little baby girl Nadia with a babysitter and went to the residence of her biological father. She has not left any message to her husband telling him where she is going and what time she is returning home. Natasha planned to go and come back before her husband returned home. She decided to keep her visit to her father hidden from her husband and anyone else she knew. Chapter 40. The daughter who was born out of adultery in Islam. Natasha has prepared herself for everything except for what her father has planned to do to her. She thought he might threaten her life, blackmail her, and force her to say nothing about his relationship with her. She expected that he might attempt to kill her to hide the communal disgrace before his Muslim people would come to know about her relationship with him. He might try to bribe her to shut her mouth. She knows he is filthy rich, and hence, if she asked for $1 million bribe, he might give her to hide his ugly crime and bury his nasty scandal. But Natasha knows she would not sell her conscience for $1 billion. As she has come up with thousands of thoughts and worries, but her father has one single plan in his evil mind to destroy her and get rid of her forever. Accordingly, he was determined to destroy her and silence her mouth for eternity. After the trial was over and he had been exonerated from the charge, the court released him from non-flying restriction and returned his passport to him. That day he knew his life in Canada would become a public disgrace if his daughter, who was born out of adultery, opened her mouth and exposed his relationship to her and that he fathered her without the sanctity of the marriage bond. It is a mere coincidence that on the following day he is going to fly to Asmara to visit his Eritrean wife after a year of separation. He is also planning to fly from Asmara to Cairo to visit his Egyptian wife, and then he would fly to Lagos to meet his Nigerian wife. His flights from Calgary to Asmara, Cairo, and Lagos had already been booked for the evening on the following day. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din knows that according to the Islamic Sharia, the daughter born out of adultery is not a daughter at all. The Sharia even allows the Muslim man to marry and have sex with his daughter, which he fathered her out of adultery, because such a relation is not lawfully recognized in Islam. The renowned Muslim commentator Al-Qurtubi, commenting on Surah Furqan 25, verse 54, has said, "The Muslim man could marry and have sex with his daughter born out of adultery because adultery would not establish a blood relationship." Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din never felt for a second the young woman who met him in front of the biggest mosque and claimed to be his daughter that in any way she is related to him. She has remained in his sight the apostatized and accursed Sudanese woman who brought disgrace to the Muslim community in Calgary. Since she openly declared herself an apostate from Islam, she deserved the death penalty. If she happened to be in a Muslim country, her parents or the Sharia court would put her to death and her body would be burned with fire. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din believes that as a Muslim religious leader, it is his duty to apply the Islamic law on the apostatized Natasha. So, that day he determined to defy the Canadian secular law, apply his sacred Islamic Sharia law, make everybody in the Muslim community and among the infidels know that he is the one who feared Allah and carried out his judgment on the apostatized Muslim woman Natasha Shams al-Din, the wife of the accursed apostate priest Wahid Muhammad Ahmed. On that day, Natasha changed her Western dress and put on a Sudanese sari, which she expected by wearing it she would impress her father and win his favor. Before that day, she always used to put on a shirt and trousers. She even dressed up in short pants that exposed her thighs and hips, and shirts showed her arms and shoulders. But that day, she covered her long hair with a hijab and dressed up in a simple loose dress. She removed all her makeup and jewelry. She avoided applying any perfume or putting on any finery. She knows her father is a deeply religious man and might not like her to dress up herself with all those worldly things. As much as she prepared herself to impress him, her father prepared himself to surprise her. Natasha did not take the car of her late grandpa, but she called a taxicab. She does not want anyone from his Pakistani in-laws, Sudanese Muslim friends, and religious followers to see her family car parking in front of his house. On her way, Natasha visited her daughter's babysitter and kept her daughter with her. On her arrival, her father welcomed her at the gate and escorted her to one of his spacious and opulent rooms. He is living in southwest Calgary in one of the most affluent neighborhoods. Each house's market value is $1 million plus. His huge mansion has a market value of $5 million. Natasha was a bit surprised when she found herself inside a bedroom instead of a living room. Without inviting her to sit, her father went to the room door and securely closed it. Natasha immediately perceived something dangerous about to happen to her. She thought he might attack her and strangle her to death. She began to tremble like one of the deer that saw a wolf close to her. Her biological father became like a voracious beast that has his helpless prey cornered. Therefore, she concluded that he is going to kill her. No matter what she thought he is going to do to her, she has never expected him to rape her. His long beard showed he is a pious Muslim leader. But when he began to speak, he took all the winds out of her sail. Do you think this article and your letter have any value in the Islamic Sharia? According to our blessed Sharia, you're not my daughter because I had fathered you out of adultery. At that time, I was rebellious like you and not a true Muslim at all. The Islamic Sharia permits the father to sleep with his daughter who was born to him out of adultery. He is even allowed to marry her. This license is mentioned in the Holy Quran, Surah Furqan 25, verse number 54. If you don't want to accept me as your daughter, at least stay away from me and my husband. Why do you want to kill us? I am not the one who wants to kill you. It is our blessed Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and prayers of Allah be upon him, who ordered us to kill you and your accursed husband because both of you forsook the religion of Islam and embraced the Christian religion of the filthy infidels. Both of you are apostates, and according to the Sharia, the shedding of your blood is permissible. It is an obligation on every faithful Muslim to kill you. If you hate the infidels and their Christian religion, why do you stay in their country? Why don't you go back to your Muslim country and follow your cruel and barbaric Sharia law? With your filthy tongue and little knowledge of Islam, do you want to teach me what to do and not to do? Do you think that I am going to let you go out of here and allow you to drag me before the court of those unclean infidels as you did before? When Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din spoke those last words, his animalistic sex nature overpowered him. At that moment, his sexual desire blinded him and turned him into a heart without emotions and a head without a brain. His body is burning with unquenchable lust. He saw in his daughter nothing except a feminine body that he lusted after. She became to him as fresh meat, and he wants to devour it. He then ran towards Natasha and pushed her against the wall. Natasha has been taken by surprise. Her body hit the wall and gave her severe pain. But quickly she overcame the pain, stood up, and pushed him back. He came again and attacked her. This time she is ready for him. She scratched his face and kicked him. He kicked back and held her hair. While he was pulling her hair, Natasha struggled for some time to free her hair from his hands. When she could not free her hair, she used her leg and kicked him on his private parts. He released her hair due to the terrible pain she inflicted on him. As soon as her hair was freed, Natasha began to run around. He chased her around the room. She jumped on the bed. He jumped after her. She jumped off the bed. He jumped behind her. He overtook her and held her from her back. She could not use either hands or legs to free herself from his firm grip. She struggled violently to free herself, but she could not. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din is a tall and extraordinarily strong man. He is like the giant Palestinian man Goliath, and she is like the little Jewish boy David. Then the evil man forced his daughter down on the floor. She knelt on her knees and continued to struggle for her freedom. He took hold of her hand and twisted it behind her back. She began to scream from the pain. Somehow, she managed to get hold of his body and bite him. Her sharp teeth forced him to release her. Natasha immediately hit him in the face and sprang away. He chased her again. In the meantime, she is screaming on top of her voice. Unfortunately, all surrounded neighbors in that neighborhood are houses of Muslim Sudanese and other Muslims' residences. It is quite a common phenomenon in that neighborhood that the woman's voice very often heard screaming, and no one bothered to call the police or try to rescue her. This is because the Prophet Muhammad said, "A man shouldn't be asked why he is beating his wife." Sunan Abu Dawud, Book 11, Hadith number 2142. It is a daily happening a rebellious daughter gets beaten by her father or a disobedient woman being battered by her husband. In the Quran, Surah Al-Nisa 4, verse 34, Allah allows the Muslim man to beat his disobedient women. That day, no matter how long or how loud Natasha screams, and every neighbor heard her screaming until her evil father scourged her to death, no one is going to call the cops on him. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din could be able to reach his daughter and grabbed her delicate body by his rough hands again. This time, he pushed her to the bed. She fell on her back. He mounted her body, and his hands pressed her head against the bed. She is kicking and screaming, and he is sweating and shivering. He felt as if he was trying to control a dangerous animal. She continued to struggle under his heavy weight. He brought his mouth near her face to either kiss her or bite her. She hit his mouth with her forehead. The blood gushed out of his mouth. He let go of her and jumped backwards. She then pushed him away and ran. He did not chase her this time. Instead, he held his mouth and continued to look at her. She stood in a corner. When she realized that he was not attacking her, she attacked him instead. But he hit her on the face before she could touch him. His blow this time is so powerful that it caused her to fall flat on the floor. As soon as she fell, he jumped over her. She could not struggle much this time. He held her dress and tore it apart. When she saw her dress opened in two halves, she fought back. He continued to tear her clothes piece after piece. In the meantime, she kicked him, slapped him, and pushed him. But none of her strikes could hinder him from stripping her clothes from her body. He continued to pull off her clothes piece after piece. When her outgarment was fully gone, she remained only in her bra and underwear. Her evil father stretched his right hand and caught hold of her bra and took it off her breasts. The sight of her exposed breasts drew him into a state of insanity. But before he could snatch away her underwear, she hit him on his stomach with her leg. That last kick made him stop. He stood up and backed away. When she was released, she stood too and walked backwards. She is staggering and sweating. She is also trembling and bleeding from head to feet. She stopped calling for help because she realized that there was no one there to respond to her screaming. She also thought that her wicked father had locked her up in a soundproof room. For a while, both are struggling for breath. Natasha stood away and looked at her father as a dangerous beast. She could not believe that a terrible demon who was standing before her vision was her real father. By this time, she has become fully aware that he is trying to rape her before killing her. Meanwhile, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din is looking at his daughter with eyes full of lust. His mouth is still bleeding. His clothes are also torn. He could see her naked body standing before him. It is only covered by a small piece of red underwear. The rest of her dress is scattered everywhere, while the remaining covering is hanging like a bandage between her waist and exposed thighs. The sight of her naked body has transformed him into a sex maniac and made him try again. Therefore, the notorious womanizer and child abuser was overcome by his lust and attacked his daughter again. Meanwhile, Natasha is violently hitting him with her fists on his head, face, and body, but she could not keep him away. It seemed that he turned into a stone man. By then, she is left only in her underwear. He forced her to the floor. She is struggling less than before. She is exhausted because her evil father has weakened her resistance strength and beaten all the fight out of her. She felt that her strength could fail her any time. She is losing faith in herself. She understood that her feminine strength could not be able to strive forever against his masculine power. He forced her under his heavy weight. She could only fight now with her mouth and eyes. She is screaming in his ears. She called him by every bad name she knew. She called him an evil father and a demon-possessed religious leader. He has not paid attention to her words. Now his only aim is to pull out her last covering and force himself inside her. Natasha is like a drowning person who can hold on to everything that might come her way. She held his long beard and pulled it down. She scratched his face with her fingernails. She spat on him many times. She is crying for help, but all her efforts could not take him off her body. She felt his right hand grab her last virtuous covering and began to pull it down. At that critical time, she caught hold of his shoulder and began to bite it. He screamed and let go of her and jumped off her crashed body. She has not let go of his shoulder. He is groaning and gnashing his teeth due to the terrible pain and hit her everywhere to release his shoulder. It seemed that her teeth were like sharp nails that had been inserted in his flesh until they hit bones. The devil incarnated has pulled violently and released himself. Natasha is now restless and gasping for breath. Every part of her body is giving her unbearable pain. Her teeth, forehead, cheeks, shoulders, hands, thighs, hips, legs are bleeding. Her clothes are scattered in bits and pieces everywhere. She is naked and wounded. She is in a miserable condition. She had never expected one day in her life that she would be reduced to such a desperate situation. She wishes that she is dead and gone before such a fateful day would come in her life. A black day in which she has been brutally raped by her own father. Her eyes are wide open. She could not be able to distinguish the objects before her eyes. She repeatedly closed her eyes and opened them, but she could not see things clearly. She began to feel everything around her was moving in a cyclone as they had been hit by a powerful dust devil. Therefore, Natasha has lost consciousness and fallen lifeless body on the floor. Satan the devil knew that his daughter had lost her consciousness and become powerless. So, he bent over her unconscious body and began lustfully to feel it. His hands are rapidly moving all over her naked body. When he became sure that his daughter was unconscious of his hands' touches, Sheikh Yasser Sef al-Din started stripping her underwear. Then he removed his wolf's clothing and mounted her unconscious body. Due to the rubbing and fondling of her body, Natasha regained half of her consciousness. But her badly battered body continued to be dormant. She then has felt his male organ has found her private parts and started to cut through like a knife. That feeling gave her an ugly sensation. Although she opened her eyes and saw dimly the silhouette of her father, she could not move a limb of her paralyzed body. She felt his fleshless skeleton as if a crocodile was moving on her body. His bones are poking her flesh as sharp thorns. His toothless mouth, which produces an odor of bad breath, is approaching her like a poisonous snake. He lost his artificial teeth during his fight with her. Then he began to suck and lick her lips like a mad dog. That gave her an ugly sensation which caused her to throw up everything she ate and drank that day. While she is vomiting, she felt his penis has fully inserted itself inside her vagina and began to cut up and down like rusty metal. That gave her unbearable pain as if her father were sawing her in two halves. She wanted to cry from the unbearable pain, but her voice failed her. While the monstrous father is raping his daughter, her tears are falling on her cheeks like hot acid and blinding her vision. But before her evil father has emptied his filthiness inside her and defile her virtuous body, she fell in a coma, and soon after she is drowned in the sea of the darkness of death. Chapter 41. The mysterious disappearance of Natasha. Since the day they got married over a year ago, Pastor Wahid's wife Natasha has never left their apartment and gone somewhere without informing him about her whereabouts. For the first time, her husband returned home and did not find his beloved wife in their apartment. Natasha always returned from her college before Pastor Wahid. To avoid paying for a babysitter, Natasha is doing morning classes and Pastor Wahid is enrolled in evening classes. That Friday evening, when he came from his Bible college, her husband did not find his beloved wife in their apartment. He looked everywhere for a message from her, but he found none. He waited for a long time before he finally decided to dial her cell phone number. Her phone is ringing, but she is not answering the call. He knew that she had a caller ID in her cell phone and hence she never ignored his call before. If she is still in college, she always shuts off her phone during her lectures. Pastor Wahid waited for some time and tried again, but he did not get any response from his wife. He became very worried about her safety. He called the woman who usually babysits their daughter whenever they needed to go somewhere without their baby. The babysitter informed him that his wife brought their baby girl, and she promised her to return any time to take her. Then the babysitter said Natasha did not tell her where she was going and what time she was coming to take her daughter. Pastor Wahid became more worried and dialed his wife's cell phone number several times, but always got the same result. Finally, he could not be able to control his fear, dialed 911 and informed the police that his wife was missing. Pastor Wahid along with the police searched everywhere for Natasha without any positive result. All her friends and classmates have been contacted, but none of them has claimed to have seen her on the day she went missing. After 24 hours from her mysterious disappearance, Pastor Wahid informed the police that most probably Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din is responsible in the sudden vanishing of his wife. Accordingly, Pastor Wahid Muhammad Ahmed accused the leader of the Muslim Muhajirin of arranging the kidnap and murder of his wife Natasha. The police of Calgary went to the residence of Sheikh Yasser, but they found the door was securely locked up. His Sudanese neighbors informed the cops that the virtuous sheikh had left the country on Friday evening and flown to Eritrea. Then the police got hold of his Pakistani wife in her parents' residence, which is located a couple of blocks away from her house. Shaman Siddiqui went to her parents' house because her old mother is sick and requested her daughter to come and spend a few days with her and take care of her. The wife confirmed what the neighbors had told the police about his overseas trip, but added that her husband flew to Eritrea for a 1-month visit. According to her report, the greatest religious Muslim speaker in Canada is doing religious campaigns in Eritrea, Egypt, and Nigeria. Due to the false accusation of the terrorist attack, her husband had been prevented for 1 year of doing his religious duties to his Muslim brethren in those countries. Therefore, the police of Calgary ignored the complaint of Pastor Wahid against Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din and began to look somewhere else for the missing wife. For 2 days, the police of Calgary searched everywhere for Natasha without any positive results. On the 3rd day morning, Pastor Wahid was able to find a lead to the place where his wife might have gone on the day she disappeared. That day Natasha used the house phone instead of her cell phone to call a cab. Pastor Wahid immediately called the police and informed them about his finding. The police began to work on the new piece of evidence and contacted the taxi service office. The office could be able to find the cab driver who took Natasha on that day. The driver checked his daily records and gave the office the address where he dropped his female passenger. Straight away, the cops went to Sheikh Yasser's residence and broke the door. It is either a miracle or rare luck that they found in one of the rooms Natasha, still alive, but she is unconscious and dying. She is tied up hands and legs with strong ropes. She is completely bare naked. Her body is full of bruises and blood clots. She has neither eaten food nor drunk water for 3 days. The police at once called an ambulance and rushed her to the nearest hospital. At the hospital, the lifeless body of Natasha has been rushed to the emergency section. The hospital staff began to work on her irreparably damaged body and did everything they could to rescue her from dying. If Natasha has not been found that morning, she would have been died by the time the police would figure out where her dead body has been hidden. Natasha's unconscious body has been subjected to intensive care and treatment. She has been given medication and fed liquid through her veins. The doctors found out that she had been subjected to the most brutal rape and cruel beatings that they have ever seen in their lives. The doctors and nurses who attended her treatment first treated all her serious wounds, which were all over her body. Even if she had been attacked by wild beasts, they might not have inflicted such life-threatening injuries in her entire body. She has lost a couple of teeth during that animalistic rape and brutish beating. 3 of her ribs have been broken and her skull is fractured. Both her hands have been violently twisted and one of her ankles is broken. Even so, the surgeons performed a couple of surgeries, one in her head and the other in her genitals. Despite the doctor's efforts, Natasha remained in a comatose state and was kept inside the ICU. Some doctors concluded that she is dying anyway. In the meantime, her loving husband, Pastor Wahid, went on bended knees and pleaded with God to save the life of his beloved wife. He has neither eaten food nor drunk water from the time he came to know that his beloved wife had been found dying in the residence of the wicked man, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. He did not yet inform any police authority about the blood relationship between his wife and that evil man. The police were in a state of shock when they learned that Natasha had gone by herself to the house of her rapist and murderer. They have not found any evidence of kidnap or coercion. All the pieces of evidence point to the incredible fact that Natasha called a taxi through her house phone and asked the cab driver to take her to the residence of Sheikh Yasser. When the driver was asked about the mental state of Natasha on that day, he said she seemed to be normal. The police tried to find out from her husband because his wife had voluntarily gone to the residence of her rapist. But Pastor Wahid pretended he also doesn't know why his wife went to the residence of that dangerous terrorist man. He hid such information because his wife made him swear by God that none of the two should reveal her blood relationship with the devil incarnate, Sheikh Yasser Shaitan al-Din. He wished that his wife would survive that animalistic rape, and then she would inform herself the police why she went to the den of that wicked man. Meanwhile, Natasha's soul has continued to be suspended between heaven and earth for 2 days before her body is finally revived and showed a slight sign of life in it. She continued to remain in a coma and was kept in the ICU. Meanwhile, Pastor Wahid called every pastor and every Christian man and woman he knew and begged them to pray, fast, and intercede for the life of his beloved wife. He cried and pleaded with God to stop his wife from passing away for the sake of her little baby girl who has not yet recognized her as her mother. On the 3rd day evening, Natasha was able to move her body and open her eyes. Her eyes still look lifeless and her body is dormant. Her doctors counted her first response as an incredible miracle. A nurse informed her husband that his wife came out of her coma. Pastor Wahid praised the Lord and ran to the ICU, but he is stopped by the unit staff and told that he could not see her at this stage. In the meantime, when the police of Calgary found Natasha on the 3rd day morning dying in his residence, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din had already landed in the Asmara International Airport. Soon after his arrival in the capital of Eritrea, he boarded another air carrier heading to Mogadishu, the capital of Somalia. It was too late when the RCMP informed the Eritrean police intelligence to apprehend Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din and prevent him from flying anywhere else. By that time, he already landed in Mogadishu and disappeared in that stateless Muslim land. He became out of reach and no police force in the world would be able to pursue him in that chaotic and terrorist haven. When the news of the brutal rape of Natasha Muhammad Ahmed by the spiritual leader of the Muhajirin group reached the media, all Sudanese Muslims, and his followers among the Muhajirin considered it to be a conspiracy fabricated either by the Canadian police or the apostatized Sudanese priest. It has been created to destroy the holiest Islamic religious leader ever existed in the city of Calgary and the best man of Allah all over Canada. The story that they read in the newspapers and heard on the local TV channels does not sound logical or true to them. How such apostatized Muslim woman could go by herself to the residence of her bitter enemy and allowed him to rape her? Why did she go there in the first place? The police are still clueless in that mysterious step that had been purposely taken by Natasha. The police said that only Natasha, if she survived that brutal rape, she would be able to solve that mystery. All Muslims collectively believe that Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din is as innocent as the wolf was innocent from the blood of Joseph, the son of the prophet Jacob. They also believed that the virtuous sheikh was out of the country when such rape crime took place. Many of the Sudanese people and the members of the Muhajirin concluded that if Natasha at all got raped, it would be a conspiracy created by her evil husband. Her wicked husband had already been accused by the police of Calgary of plotting the terrorist attack which killed her Muslim grandfather and the other wedding guests. Now the evil priest had kidnapped, raped, and murdered his own wife and dumped her dead body inside the holy abode of Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. He did that because he wanted to punish her for exposing his adultery with her and making her pregnant with Bint Haram without the sanctity of marriage. He had already murdered her grandfather for exposing his deception of being a convert from Islam and having a wife and 2 children in Sudan. Because of that, he was kicked out of position as a priest in 3 churches and lost his job at the campus crusade group. So, the holders of such belief considered Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din a victim of an evil plot. While other Muslims believe that some enemies of the righteous sheikh had kidnapped and raped Natasha and then dumped her dead body in the residence of the most righteous Muslim leader in Canada with the intention of involving him with a crime of kidnap, rape, and murder. All in all, not a single Muslim in Calgary City or Edmonton City believes the kidnap and rape charges against the so-called greatest Muslim leader in Canada. Chapter 42. The Ethical Dilemma. Natasha miraculously survived her father's brutal rape and his attempt to murder her. On that Black Friday evening, after repeatedly raping her, her wicked father tied her hands and legs with ropes and sealed her mouth with strong tape. He wanted her to die in the most painful death than he ever thought of. He wanted to starve her to death. After raping her, he took a heavy object, struck her on her head and her body. When she began to bleed, he left her to die in that miserable condition. He expected she was going to bleed to death. He could kill her, but the evil terrorist wanted her to suffer for long before she dies. It was just like a young woman got raped, beaten, and then crucified and left to suffer in her cross for a few days before she could breathe her last breath. He expected that she would bleed to death and succumb to her many wounds which he had inflicted in her body. Then he securely locked up the room and left her inside. On that evening, he slept peacefully in his house as if he had done nothing. When he woke up in the morning, he checked on his victim, and when he found her in that lifeless state, he became assured that she was not going to survive for long. After that, the devil took his travel bags and left his house. On his way to the Calgary International Airport, he stopped at his bank and withdrew every single dollar he had and closed all his accounts. He converted his Canadian dollars into foreign hard currencies such as American dollars, British pounds, and euros. He carried with him to the international airport a bag full of foreign currencies. When his plane took off, he thanked his Allah and prayed to his demonic god that he should not allow his feet again to touch the soil of that infidel's land. At any rate, a week later from the day she was brutally raped and beaten by her cruel father, Natasha Muhammad Ahmed has been able to regain some of her strength. She has been transferred from the ICU to a private room in the hospital. The police kept tight security in front of her room. No one could visit her except her husband and the hospital staff. In the beginning, Natasha refused to disclose any information about her mysterious visit to her father's house or even to her husband. The police did not try to bother her with any question until her doctor declared that she is in a stable mental state and she can be interrogated. When she is questioned by the police about her visit to Sheikh Yasser's residence, Natasha boldly disclosed the reason which made her visit the den of that evil man. She said that when she discovered through the article of the newspaper that he is her biological father, she went to the mosque and told him in front of his followers about her blood relationship with him. He was the one who called her cell phone on the same day and asked her to come to his house. She expected that he would realize his mistake and stop tracking her life and the life of her husband. Instead, her evil father raped her and tried to murder her. The incredible statement of Natasha has made each ear heard, becoming numb. Muslims received her statement with mistrust and disbelief. None of them is prepared to believe or accept that such a pious and devout Muslim leader as Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din would do such evil thing to the woman who claimed to be his daughter. All Sudanese and other Muslims in Calgary believe that the so-called blood relationship of that apostatized Sudanese woman with Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din is another fabrication of that accursed Sudanese priest. Some of his followers approached the police department and requested that before the police would jump to any hasty conclusion about their righteous leader, they should wait for his return and listen to his statement. Sheikh Yasser's Pakistani wife complained about the serious allegations that have been directed against her husband. She strongly believes that her Muslim husband is a victim of a malicious conspiracy created by the two apostates Natasha and her husband Pastor Wahid, and some Christian police officers have hands in it. She appeared in the media and said that the police of Calgary failed to nail her holy husband with the terrorist attack, and therefore they came up with the crime of kidnap and rape to involve him in new ugly serious charges. The Imam of the biggest mosque of Calgary, who is the father-in-law of Sheikh Yasser, backed up the complaint of his daughter and asked for a DNA test to verify who raped Natasha Mohammed Ahmed. When the police refused to accept their request, the wife and her father submitted through a Muslim lawyer an official lawsuit at the criminal court. The court accepted their demand and ordered a DNA test to be conducted as soon as possible. Before that DNA test is done, the rape victim Natasha Mohammed Ahmed has been discovered by the hospital to have been impregnated by her rapist Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. Natasha and her husband claimed that after their baby girl Nadia was born, they planned not to have a second child in the near future because both are students and depending on the little income which they are getting through their student loans. Every time they had sex, they used a condom. So, it is not possible that her husband impregnated her. If it was not her husband, then Natasha would have been impregnated by no one other than her own biological father, and such a discovery raised serious moral issues. The moral issue arose from the fact that Natasha and her husband do not believe in abortion. According to their religious belief, abortion is murder, and they are not ready to commit such an abomination. Many moralists, religionists, and human rights activists believe that Natasha should abort such a baby. If such a child could survive, then he would face a serious ethical problem. He would suffer from serious multiple personality disorder and identity crisis. What is his mother going to be to him or her? Would she be his or her mother and his or her big sister? How is he or she going to be related to Natasha's daughter? Would he be to her a brother and at the same time her uncle? Or would she get to be her sister and auntie at the same time? These moral issues are discussed and hotly debated at the Department of Religious Studies and Ethics at the University of Calgary. Many professors of ethics and religious studies have been interviewed on TV and requested to voice their opinions on the moral issue of Natasha's pregnancy by her father. Even religious men from various religions have been asked to tell their views on that ethical issue. There are many polls drawn on radio and TV channels. Most of the people believed that such a baby should be aborted. Natasha stood firmly by her decision to keep the baby. She argued that the baby is innocent and aborting it would be murder. She stated very clearly that she is not going to kill her baby to satisfy the moral conscience of society. While that ethical question is hotly debated in society, the Calgary Criminal Court order has been implemented and the DNA tests conducted. The police provided many personal objects such as a toothbrush and comb used by Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din that supplied his DNA symbol. DNA tests have confirmed two important things. Firstly, it has been proved that Natasha is the daughter of her rapist. Secondly, it has confirmed that Natasha had been raped and abused by her biological father, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. Despite the 100% accurate DNA test results, so many Muslims continued to remain in denial. In consequence of that result, the Calgary police issued an arrest warrant against the suspect Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. Wherever he is to be found, he's supposed to be arrested and shipped back to Canada to stand trial for his hideous crimes which he committed against his own daughter. By the time that arrest warrant is issued against him, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din has become one of the leaders of the notorious terrorist group known as Al-Shabaab, which is a branch of Al-Qaeda in Somalia. Most of the members of that group are Somali young men who were born and brought up in countries like the USA, Canada, Australia, France, Netherlands, and the UK, and moved from those countries and joined the Islamic Mujahideen group, which has its base in Mogadishu. The leaders of Al-Shabaab always take advantage of those young Muslim fighters. Those young men first would be trained in military combat and making of bombs, and then would be sent to the countries where they were born to carry out terrorist activities through suicidal missions. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din became a great asset for that notorious terrorist group. Shortly after his arrival in Mogadishu, he began to plan his attack on the Western countries. The first country, he determined to begin his attack in Canada. He already got many emails from his followers explaining to him the allegations and charges that laid on him by the Calgary police because of the apostate woman who had been raped, beaten, and found half dead in his residence. Those emails continued to reach him on a daily basis and update him on the developments of the case of his daughter. When he learned that Natasha survived his slow death method, he regretted that he did not sever her neck from the rest of her body. He swore by his God Allah and his holy Quran that he would not rest until he would kill that accursed satanic wife for spoiling his name and destroying his reputation among his Sudanese people and Muslim followers in Calgary.